Funny how people unsubscribe from your life without notice. One day they swear forever, the next they're gone. But hey, if you're here, hit subscribe. It's free, unlike loyalty. I never imagined I'd be writing something like this, but I need to get everything off my chest, and perhaps gain an outside perspective. This has been haunting me for years, twisting into something even more complicated over time. It all started 5 years ago at my sister Lisa's wedding, a day that spiraled into a catastrophe, nearly tearing our family apart. Even now, it's hard to talk about, but to make sense of it, I have to start from the beginning. At the time, I was 28 and Lisa was 25. We were always unnaturally close. At least that's what people used to say. Inseparable since childhood, we moved as a unit, a team forged in secrecy and shared experiences. Though I was older by 15 months, our bond blurred the age gap. We swapped clothes without asking, ran in the same circles, and knew each other's business inside and out. Our mother used to joke that she couldn't take one of us anywhere without the other tagging along. A buy one get one free deal, she'd say with a laugh. Thinking back on our younger years makes my heart ache. We were a duo, always scheming, always together. Like the late night talks, sneaking forbidden snacks under the covers at 2 a.m., whispering about life, love, and the ridiculous future we imagined for ourselves. We were each other's alibi, our own secret keepers. If Lisa wanted to go to a party that our parents would never approve of, I covered for her, claiming she was at my friend Sarah's house. When I snuck off to see a guy who, in hindsight, wasn't worth it, she told Mom and Dad I was at the library. We never got caught. We were perfect partners in crime. And weddings? We obsessed over them. Lisa dreamed of a flawless spring ceremony, cherry blossoms raining down as she walked through an orchard, mimicking the beauty of Japanese gardens. She spent hours poring over pictures, planning every detail. I, on the other hand, wanted the opposite. A winter wedding filled with the illusion of snowfall, something dramatic and unforgettable. But looking back, I should have known. The way we dreamed of the future, the way Lisa dreamed, was always too perfect. Too fragile. And 5 years ago, her wedding proved it. Icicle lights everywhere. That was my dream. Lisa and I used to joke that we'd have to plan our weddings exactly 6 months apart so we could be each other's maids of honor. It felt like destiny. Thinking about it now, I can't help but feel the bitter irony. If someone had told me how things would unfold, I would have laughed in their face. When Lisa got engaged to her college sweetheart, James, it seemed like everything was falling into place. He was the type of man we used to fantasize about in our late-night talks, kind, sharp-witted, and hopelessly devoted to her. I was ecstatic when she asked me to be her maid of honor. Not that it was a question, we both knew it had always been me. We threw ourselves into wedding planning, drowning in Pinterest boards, magazines, and venue visits. It was like playing wedding as little girls again, except this time it was real. Our parents had divorced when we were teenagers. I was 16, Lisa was 15. Despite the split, they managed a polite, civil relationship for our sake. 3 years later, Mom remarried a man named Steve, kind, patient, and understanding. He never tried to replace our father, but he made us feel included in his life. Dad, on the other hand, never remarried. Instead, he threw himself into his real estate business, building it into something massive. He always told us we were all the family he needed. When it came to Lisa's wedding, both parents agreed to split the costs. But Dad had done exceptionally well for himself, and he insisted on giving Lisa everything she dreamed of. "My little girl only gets married once," he'd say, grinning as we showed him our plans. Everything was perfect, until 2 weeks before the wedding. Lisa and I were at Mom's house, rummaging through old family photos for a reception slideshow. Adorable Easter outfits, sun-drenched vacations, childhood bike rides with Dad. We wanted to capture our history, our bond. Then we found the letters. A bundle of aging envelopes, tied together with a faded blue ribbon. At first, we assumed they were love letters from our parents' youth. Lisa, giggling, picked one up and started reading aloud. Her laughter faded. Her hands trembled. The letters weren't from Dad. They were from a man named Michael. Lisa's face drained of color as she read the words. Letters from our mother, written around the time Lisa was conceived. Letters filled with confessions, with apologies, with a desperate plea from Michael, begging to be in his daughter's life. Lisa wasn't Dad's. I will never forget the look in her eyes at that moment. She had always been Dad's little shadow. His favorite. While I had been more independent, Lisa had followed him everywhere. Watching him work in his shop, helping him with projects, choosing to study business in college so she could take over his company one day. And in an instant it all shattered. The confrontation was explosive. Lisa stormed into the kitchen, the letters clutched in her shaking hands, and demanded the truth. Mom's face crumpled. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she read the letters, her body shaking with sobs. And then, in a voice choked with guilt, she confessed. Michael had been a coworker. A brief affair. A mistake. And Lisa was the result. When Mom discovered she was pregnant, she made a choice, one she would keep buried for over 2 decades. She chose to stay with Dad, to never tell anyone the truth about Lisa's paternity. She begged us to understand. I was young. I was scared. I only wanted to protect our family. Lisa didn't care. She was determined to tell Dad before the wedding. I tried to convince her to wait, afraid of how it would affect her big day. How can I walk down the aisle with him, knowing I've been living a lie my entire life? She had argued. How can I let him give a father of the bride speech when he's not even my real father? I should have supported her more. Instead, I tried to keep the peace. I thought I was protecting her happiness, but in reality, I was only delaying the inevitable. The day we told Dad changed everything. We went to his house together. Lisa had asked me to come for support, but when we arrived, I almost wished I hadn't. He was in his workshop, hunched over a project, sawdust in his hair. A wedding gift for Lisa, we would later learn. A handcrafted jewelry box, still unfinished. Lisa handed him the letters. Dad read them in silence. His face didn't crumple. He didn't lash out. Instead, he just sat down. Like the weight of those words had stolen the strength from his legs. For a long time, he didn't speak. Then his voice broke the silence, steady despite the heartbreak laced within it. Sweetheart, I need you to know something. Biology doesn't make a father. Love does. And I have loved you every single day of your life. Nothing will ever change that. His words cracked something deep inside me. But for Lisa, they weren't enough. He offered to still walk her down the aisle. But Lisa was too overwhelmed, too lost. She postponed the wedding. And that's when everything began to unravel. Lisa became obsessed with finding Michael. Hours spent online chasing down leads. Sleepless nights scrolling through records, old articles, scraps of information. And then, finally, she found him. A stranger yet not. Michael was shocked at first but then thrilled. Unlike Dad, he had never married, never had more children. He welcomed Lisa with open arms. At first, it was curiosity. Then it became more. She spent hours with him, learning about his life, his family, the history she never knew. They shared a love of photography. The same mannerisms. He told her she looked like his mother, smiled like his sister. And with every connection she made with Michael's world, she drifted further from ours. I couldn't bear watching Dad suffer. The daughter he had raised for 25 years, his little girl, was slipping away. Then one evening, after Lisa canceled yet another dinner with Dad to see Michael instead, I snapped. I confronted her. How can you do this to him? I demanded. Michael might be your biological father, but he wasn't there for the nightmares, the scraped knees, the dance recitals. Dad was. Lisa's expression hardened. You don't understand, she shot back. You get to be sure of who you are. You're Dad's real daughter. I've been living a lie my whole life. Every time I look in the mirror, I wonder, what parts of me come from a stranger? I didn't have an answer. And after that, everything fell apart. Lisa saw my words as a betrayal. She accused me of choosing sides. She wasn't wrong. Lisa accused me of choosing Dad's side. Of betraying her. Of failing to support her need to find herself. And then just like that, she was gone. Within months, she had packed up her life and moved to California to be closer to Michael. But what truly shattered us wasn't just her leaving. It was what she left us out of. Lisa got married in a small, intimate ceremony, with Michael walking her down the aisle. She didn't invite Dad. She didn't invite me. We only found out when a mutual friend posted photos on Facebook. Dad tried to stay strong, but I saw the way his hands trembled when he looked at the pictures. The way his shoulders slumped just a little more each day. He had already purchased her wedding gift. A handcrafted jewelry box, the one he had been making the day she told him the truth. And more than that, a substantial down payment on a house, a silent promise for her future. He never asked for the money back. He simply transferred it to her account with a note. I hope this helps you build the life you want. For years I tried to keep in touch. A message here and there. The occasional comment on her social media posts. But Lisa was distant. Cold. Meanwhile, Dad and I grew closer. I saw him every day. Sunday dinners became our ritual. I threw myself into learning about his real estate business. Not because I wanted to take over, but because I saw how much it meant to him to share his knowledge. Then 2 years ago, something changed. At first it was small. Missed appointments. Forgotten conversations. Getting lost on familiar roads. Then it got worse. After one too many unsettling incidents, I convinced him to see a doctor. The diagnosis was cruel, early onset Alzheimer's. Medication can slow it down, the doctor had said. But you need to start planning for the future while he's still able to make decisions. And so Dad did. He put his affairs in order, granting me power of attorney. He transferred the majority of his assets, his home, his business, his savings, to me. I protested. Lisa is still your daughter in every way that matters, I argued. Dad shook his head. I'm not doing this to punish Lisa, he said. I'm doing this because you've shown you can handle it. The business, the properties, they need someone who understands them. Someone who cares. I didn't ask for this responsibility, but I accepted it. Then last month Lisa found out. Suddenly my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text after text. Call after call. Lisa claimed she had been doing a lot of soul searching. That she realized she had been unfair. That she missed me. That she missed Dad. That she wanted to make things right. And then Mom got involved. She called, urging me to convince Dad to change his will while he still could. Lisa deserves an equal share, she insisted. He raised her as his daughter. He loves her. Conveniently forgetting that Lisa had spent the past 5 years pretending he wasn't her father at all. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. With his diagnosis, he's not legally capable of making these decisions. Lisa could challenge the will if she had to. That was the moment I knew. Lisa wasn't back for us. She was back for what she thought she was owed. And then last week she showed up on my doorstep. Tears streaming down her face. My marriage is falling apart, she sobbed. Moving to California was a mistake. Michael was a mistake. And just like that, she wanted back in. Lisa sat in my living room, tears streaking her face, unraveling the story of her shattered illusions. Michael wasn't who I thought he was, she whispered. He's controlling. He expects me to take care of him now that he's older, because I'm his only child. I stayed silent, waiting. I need to come back home, she continued. I want to be near Dad before it's too late. I studied her carefully. Was this about Dad? Or was it about what he had left to give? So I asked, directly. If Dad didn't have an inheritance, would you still be here? The air turned sharp. Lisa's expression darkened. You think I'm only here for money? She hissed. You've always been his favorite. Ever since I found out the truth, you've been poisoning him against me, making sure you get everything in the end. I exhaled slowly, keeping my voice even. Lisa, you left us. You cut us out of your life. And now you want back in, only after you found out about the will? Her eyes flashed. She stormed out. And now she's telling anyone who will listen that I manipulated Dad into cutting her out of his fortune. Even Mom. The same mother she once resented for lying about her paternity. To Mom's credit, she has stayed neutral. When I lied about Lisa's father, I forfeited my right to have an opinion on this, she admitted. But the damage is already done. I feel torn. Dad's condition is worsening. Some days he forgets what year it is. Some days he calls me Lisa by mistake. I want his final years to be peaceful. Part of me wonders, should I convince him to change the will? To keep the peace? Lisa is still my sister. But another part of me remembers she made her choice 5 years ago. She walked away. And now she only wants back in because of what she stands to gain. Update 1. A moment of clarity. The outpouring of support has been overwhelming. Reading your messages helped me process emotions I hadn't even realized I was struggling with. I took some advice to heart. I sat down with Dad on one of his good days, those rare moments when his mind is clear, when the fog of Alzheimer's lifts, and he feels like his old self again. We talked. 4 hours. I reminded him that while Lisa had hurt him deeply, cutting her out completely was a decision made in pain, not reason. And then, something unexpected happened. Dad started reminiscing. He talked about how, as a little girl, Lisa used to follow him into his workshop with a tiny plastic tool set, mimicking his every move. How she used to beam whenever he let her fix something alongside him. And then his voice cracked. Dad never cries. But in that moment I saw the weight of years, the love he still carried for the daughter who betrayed him. It made him realize his decision had been fueled by hurt, not logic. So we met with his lawyer. It cost a fortune, but we restructured the will. Not to give Lisa half, but to create a small trust fund for her. A final act of love. Whether she deserves it, that's another question entirely. Dad's revised will was nothing short of brilliant. He created a trust, but not for Lisa. Instead, it was for her future children's education. Tuition, books, school-related expenses only. No flashy cars. No wild vacations. And there was a catch. Lisa would have to maintain consistent contact with Dad, monthly calls or visits, for an entire year before the trust even became active. His reasoning was sound. I won't punish my potential grandkids for their parents' mistakes. But Lisa needs to prove she cares, not just for the money. I agreed. And if I was being honest, I realized I was still angry. Angry that money had caused this rift. Angry that Lisa had shut us out. Angry that she only came back when she needed something. My therapist said it was okay to feel betrayed. But I needed to work through it. Not let it consume me. At least there was one bright spot. Dad's new medication was working. More good days than bad. On his clear days, I started recording his stories about our childhood. The doctor said it would help all of us later on. Bittersweet. But we were making the most of our time. Update 2. The House of Lies collapses. I thought things were finally settling. I was wrong. Yesterday morning, I got an unexpected Facebook message from Lisa's biological father, Michael. At first, I almost deleted it. More drama, I figured. But something made me open it. And thank God I did. Michael felt guilty. He said he should have told me the truth months ago but was afraid of losing Lisa. The truth? Lisa's entire story was a lie. Her perfect life in California? Crumbling. Her close bond with Michael? Manipulative at best. She had been pressuring him to sell his house and invest in a business venture with James. When Michael refused, she started guilt-tripping him, telling him he owed her years of parenting. She even tried to get his sister to convince him to take out a second mortgage. And the business venture? A multi-level marketing scheme. One James fell into after losing his job last year. They were drowning in debt. Over $100,000 owed to credit cards, personal loans, everything they had dumped into this scam. And Lisa? She had been trying to scam Michael first. When that failed, she turned to us. I was still processing this when Lisa showed up at my door with James. And they had come prepared. They presented an entire argument on why Dad's will was unfair. Lisa played the reformed daughter. I forgive Dad for rejecting me, she said. I just want to be part of this family again. I let them talk. For 10 minutes. Then I pulled out my phone and read Michael's message aloud. I wish I had recorded Lisa's expression. 1 second she was playing the devoted daughter. The next, full-blown panic. James stood up and walked out. He hadn't even known Lisa was lying to Michael too. Lisa collapsed into tears. And then, the truth poured out. They had lost everything. Their business was a disaster. James had left months ago, but Lisa kept up appearances online, pretending her life was perfect. When she couldn't get money from Michael, she turned to Dad. When that failed, she tried to manipulate me. I almost felt sorry for her. But then I thought about how she had gaslit Dad. How she made him feel guilty for a rejection that had never happened. I told her she needed to tell Dad the truth. She resisted. His health. I cut her off. Either you tell him or I will. She agreed, but only if I went with her. The conversation that changed everything. We caught Dad on a good day. Lisa told him everything. The debt. The lies. James losing his job. Dad sat quietly. Then, he laughed. This reminds me of when you were 7, Lizzie, he said. You broke my favorite coffee mug. Instead of telling me, you made up this whole story about the dog knocking it over. Even got your stuffed bear to corroborate it. Lisa looked stunned. I knew it was you, Dad continued. I let you keep going just to see how far you'd take it. You've always done this, Lizzie. Creating complicated solutions to simple problems. Just like your mother. There was no malice in his tone. Just understanding. Then he got serious. Lying and manipulating wasn't the answer. And for the first time in years, they actually talked. Hours passed. And then, Dad did something that shocked both of us. He offered to help. But on his terms. If Lisa and James moved back, got real jobs, no more MLM, and went to financial counseling, he would pay off their debt. Not from the inheritance, but from his current assets. And they would have to sign an agreement to pay him back. Lisa agreed. And just like that, things changed. They're looking for an apartment near Dad now. Lisa wants to help with his care. She's already planning how we can coordinate schedules. A month ago, I would have never believed her sincerity. But now, maybe, just maybe, this time it's real. For the first time in years, I think we might actually be a real family again. There's still a long way to go. Trust takes time. Mistakes don't disappear overnight. But something feels different this time. Michael texted me tonight asking how things went. When I told him the truth, he seemed relieved. He still wants a relationship with Lisa, but with healthy boundaries. That's probably for the best. Someone commented on my last update saying, Sometimes people have to hit rock bottom before they can climb back up. Maybe that's exactly what happened here. Dad always used to say, the true test of a person isn't whether they make mistakes, but how they handle them. I guess we'll see if Lisa passes that test. Final update, a new beginning. Lisa and James actually moved back. They found a small apartment about 10 minutes from Dad's house. It's nowhere near as fancy as their California home, but Lisa says it feels more like home. And the best part? No more MLMs. James landed a job in IT and surprisingly, he's pretty damn good at it when he's not chasing get-rich-quick schemes. Lisa's working as an office manager at a medical practice. And the debt repayment? Going shockingly well. They haven't missed a single payment. Lisa even picks up extra shifts to pay it off faster. Some people thought Dad was too generous in helping them. But I see now, it wasn't just about the money. It was about healing. By letting Lisa take responsibility and work for her redemption, Dad repaired more than just her finances, he rebuilt their relationship. Caring for Dad, together. Lisa and I finally figured out a system to take care of Dad. She takes Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturday mornings. I take Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday afternoons. Fridays? We alternate. It's working. Dad gets the attention he needs. Neither of us feels overwhelmed. His condition? It's progressing. The doctors say the medication is helping, but we all see the changes. There are more bad days than good now. Sometimes he confuses us, mixing up names thinking we're still teenagers. But on his worst days, he still smiles. Lisa has been amazing with him. She has this way of slipping into whatever time period he believes he's in, making him feel safe rather than confused. Last month was particularly hard. Dad forgot about everything, the affair, the DNA test, all of it. In his mind, Lisa was just his little girl. He told her stories about their childhood camping trips like nothing had ever changed. And Lisa? She went along with it. Later, I found her crying in the kitchen. When I asked if she was okay, she whispered, I didn't remember those trips. Not until today. I spent so many years focused on what Michael could give me, I forgot how much Dad already had. That was the moment I knew. She was different this time. Lisa and Michael, a different kind of relationship. Michael and Lisa took some space after everything came out. Now, they have what Lisa calls a coffee shop relationship. Once a month they meet for coffee. No big emotions, no money talk, no pressure. Just small talk catching up. And you know what? It works. Michael no longer calls Lisa his long-lost daughter. Now she's just Lisa. And that feels right. The inheritance, and what really matters. Dad's will remains unchanged. I'm still the main beneficiary. The education trust for Lisa's future kids stays in place. But honestly, none of it matters anymore. Lisa and I talked about it the other day and she said something that hit me hard. It was never about the money. It was about who Dad trusted more. I thought getting a bigger share would prove he loved me as much as you. Now I realize, I was measuring the wrong thing all along. That was huge. For years, she chased validation in all the wrong places. And finally, she sees it was never about a will. Dad has always loved her. She just needed to be willing to see it. Is this a perfect ending? No. I know this might sound like one of those cheesy Hallmark movies where everything magically works out. But trust me, it's not. Lisa and I still argue sometimes. Dad still has bad days. The debt is still there. But we're trying. And maybe that's what really matters. If this story resonated with you. Family is complicated. Mistakes are made. People drift apart. Sometimes things seem beyond repair. But here's what I've learned. Small blue diamond redemption is possible, but only when someone truly wants it. Small blue diamond forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past. It's about deciding the future matters more. Small blue diamond money doesn't define love. Trust does. If you've ever struggled with family, betrayal, or forgiveness, I hope this story gave you something to think about. If it resonated with you, tell us your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone? And if you found this story meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes real stories are the ones that matter most.